question there.
All right. It's Thursday, November the 1st, 2018. We have Free Lazor on the line. Thank you for calling tonight, Free. I did want to address, as you know, we have devils that, come on my channel and they try to paint. They're anonymous, by the way. They don't give their real names. They try to paint the prisoners that I advocate for in the worst possible light. And you guys don't have a voice a lot of times. You don't even hear a lot of things that are said about you. I know you've probably addressed this question multiple times in the past. I suspect that you have. But I wanted to ask you, because there's a devil that came on my channel and he's been, trying to paint you in the worst possible light after 36 years in prison, saying that you shot the guy that was coming at you with a meat cleaver in your own home. You felt threatened for your life, that you shot him in the back. And I just was curious. I know you have the 3552 and you may have addressed this question multiple times in the past, but what would your response be to that in the time that we have left? I know our time goes by so quick, but how would you respond to that, or how should I respond to that when naysayers and mockers and scoffers come around and say that particular point, Free?
Okay, great, and thank you for that question. I won't get very far in this call, and on this date, we'll pick the rest up at another time, but let me get started on it. First of all, let me say that because the way my case was done with an attorney that was backstabbing me and that was working undercover to help the district attorney send me to prison, they got to say whatever they wanted. So not only did they get to say whatever they wanted to a jury, and I was muzzled where I did get to speak, but I kept being pulled off the stand whenever I said something in my favor that my own attorney didn't like. And he threatened that I would not be able to resume on the stand and that I would not be able to say what I wanted to say on the stand. And then a lot of information that proved that these claims by the prosecutor were false, I was never allowed to put forth in my trial. So let's start with that. That's a big problem. And that's, but even with that, even the parole board itself states that this was 36 years ago. It's so old that even if I had done what I was accused of, i.e. shot this guy in the back, it's so old it doesn't matter anymore because of who I am today. And I am a man of peace. I've always been a man of peace. So, but they're acknowledging that if I'm a man of peace today, that doesn't even matter. But let's go into proof that the prosecutor lied about that. My own defense attorney lied about it. He was arguing the case against me with the prosecutor. Let's go to the 3552, which is on my website. It's a document. That's the title of the document because it lists 35 fraudulent activities by the prosecution team and my attorney, and then it shows with 52 exhibits, it backs it up and proves all the claims that I'm making. So let's start with the autopsy, or the body itself was hastily cremated immediately so that we couldn't get a chance to examine it to prove that the gunshots were from the front. This is unheard of in any case I've ever found in U.S. history. That's several hundred years. There have been cases where there have been cremations done, but they always got the case reversed, or they proved that it didn't matter because it wasn't even relevant to the guilt finding of the case. In my case, it was at the heart of the guilt finding, and yet my case has not been reversed, although I tried to get it reversed on this by procedural bars. The courts have refused to hear this all these years, and everything else that's in my favor. So let's start with that. They hastily cremated the body to make sure that I couldn't show that the bullet holes were from the front. There was nothing in the back, and there was nothing in the back of the head. This is in the 3552. It's there by their own records. Everything I'm about to tell you is backed up by the state's own records, not something I created, but something of the state's records. It took me 18 years to dig out. Most of it was hidden. We'll go to the next thing, and that is the autopsy report. The coroner was later busted for falsifying autopsies. There was 2 different autopsies. There are 2 mentions of an original autopsy in several different police reports, and this coroner's office was busted for fraud repeatedly, investigated for fraud for years. Right during my trial, I didn't know about it at the time, for doctoring autopsies and falsifying autopsy reports.
Hey, Free, would you mind giving his name? Would you mind giving the coroner's name? Because
yes, his name is Dr. Angelo Ozoa. O-Z-O-A. First name A-N-G-E-L-O. He's now deceased. He was busted in a case.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Nelson Galbraith is the name, G-A-L-B-R-A-I-T-H, Galbraith versus County of Santa Clara. And that case is a published case anybody can look up, and they'll show that same coroner got busted falsifying an autopsy report against Galbraith, trying to frame him for murder. And then when he was pulled before the Ninth Circuit Court to testify about that falsification, he got busted committing perjury to the Ninth Circuit judges. And the amazing thing is, he still was not fired when all was said and done. He was allowed to retire eventually after all that. So that says a lot about the fraud going on there too. So now let's move to another one. The gunshots themselves, the bullet holes, it took me 18 years or 16 years or 18 years to get photographs that prove that the bullet holes went in the front, came out the back, because they're bigger coming out the back, and everybody knows, it doesn't take a ballistics expert to know that a bullet spreads as it goes into the body and through the body, and it comes out with a bigger hole. So that I had that in the 3552, but I removed it off the internet out of respect for the decedent and the attack, the guy who attacked me. Out of respect for him, I didn't want those pictures of his body on there. I will send a copy to anybody who writes me and asks for them, or I can send a copy to you, Rudy, and you can, if you're willing to, send a copy out to anybody.
You bet. I think I have seen. I think I have. Official. Yep. I think I have seen those free, and I think you're absolutely right. And I have also seen articles about the corruption of the coroner, Dr. Angelo Ozoa. I have absolutely seen articles about his corruption. Right. Yes.
You have some, I believe. I believe you have that document. I have a lengthy document that I put together. It took me years to put together about all the different frauds that he was involved in that I was able to get information on. So let's go to another one. The bullets. There was a bullet hole in Allred's hand that this coroner, who was against me and trying to do everything he could against me, even at that, testified absolutely could not have been made by my gun. So we got a bullet hole in this man that was not made by me. So I always thought I fired maybe 2 shots. Bam, bam. Or maybe bam, bam, bam. Possibly 3. And that's it. Originally, the police report said there were several bullets left in my clip in the gun, perfectly operable gun. If I wanted to kill him, I'd have fired some more. He was still alive and on his feet when the police came at my phone call. They admit that. So there's no way anybody could say I intentionally killed him, because I could have. I could have just fired more. I didn't. I stopped when my, it appeared that I was in a safe moment. So the chain of custody, this is unheard of in cases. If it ever happens, it reverses the case, but it's basically unheard of in cases. The police were forced to admit that nobody would take responsibility for the chain of custody of my bullet clip with bullets in it.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Also, they initially said that they picked up all the bullet casings on the floor that were, the empty from my expelled bullets that were fired, and there were only, I think, two or three, and that was it. Then mysteriously and amazingly, several weeks later, they go back into my house, which had been sealed with evidence tape. I wasn't even allowed to go back to it, and they come up with, here's some more bullet shells right here. So they're claiming there were more bullets.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
It's an incredible case. It suggests, and more than suggests, that somebody fired bullets after I was taken from the scene. It not only suggests it, but there isn't any other alternative that fits with reality. Now, we're about to get cut off, so I've got to stop here. There are several other things that I can also mention that also support this whole, my position on this.
I think people need to read the 3552, being hastily cremated, the corruption of the coroner, which is well documented, and the fact that there was more bullet holes than what you recall firing. Are you still there, Free? Free? Okay, we've lost him. We do our best with the time frame that we have, and look, if you look up Coroner Angelo Ozoa, you're going to see that he's just full of corruption, and he was the coroner in Free Lazor's case. And we do have photos of the victim that shows that the bullet entered from the front. So all of these accusations that Free shot the man in the back is just that. It's false allegations and false accusations. The man should not have been in Free's home. He was attacking Free with a meat cleaver, and Free was defending himself. And he should never have been convicted for second-degree murder. But even if he was rightfully convicted for second-degree murder, 36 years is too long of a sentence for his conviction, and he should have been out a long time ago. But his nightmare continues, and we're going to petition the Lord Jesus Christ Almighty that justice will come to Free, just like so many others unjustly incarcerated. And Free will address all of these questions openly. He's put out a 3552 document for people that want to study his case, as well as he talks to me on the phone. And so I pray that you take the time to write Free a letter, encourage him with Scripture, and if you have any questions, I encourage you to ask him. But I believe Free Lazor is innocent, and even if he's guilty, 36 years is too long. And I don't think he's guilty. I really truly believe, after studying his case and looking at the evidence and talking with the man, that he is a victim of unjustly being incarcerated by a prosecutor that has gone rogue, and that's a very common situation in our criminal justice system. Thank you for your time tonight. Have a great night.